Are you overwhelmed with all these articles and all these videos that you've been watching that explain these great supplements that are going to help you with your health, or to fix your gut, or to fix your thyroid, or to fix your brain? Or you're a person that just has a ton of different supplements in their pantry and they don't even know what the heck they are or what they do, and even if they're worth taking or not. Well, I'm going to show you how to reliably assess on yourself if a supplement is even worth taking and is going to actually help you with your health goals. I do a lot of muscle testing in the office as an indicator to see if that supplement or that nutrient is actually going to be helpful for them before I give it to them. And so a lot of my patients will ask me, do you do self-muscle testing on yourself because they've heard about it or seen it online, or do you have another practitioner test you for it? And without a doubt, I always have somebody else do it. It's just way too hard to test yourself, especially muscle testing. There's just so much communication going on and feedback going up to the brain with both the hand that you're testing and the one that you're trying to push down on. So it's just way too much variables, and it's really hard for you to take your brain out of the test. Oftentimes we read a lot about a supplement or about something and we think, okay, this is the thing that's going to save me. This is the thing that's going to fix all my problems. And so we want it to be good. And so it's really hard to have an objective test when you're doing that. But there are some other indicators that you can use that are really good to help you narrow down maybe what supplements are the best for you to take, or what's going to help you in that moment. So let's use a quick example on myself. So I'm going to use touching my toes, because I don't touch my toes very well. I'm also going to use external rotation. This is kind of painful for me when I go externally out like this. Make sure you are doing a consistent range of motion. So I'm paying attention. When I put my thumb out and I rotate all the way out as far as I can, that's when I get that pain right there. And then a tender spot for me, I found, was right here in that bicep tendon area when I press on with the pads of my fingers. When you're testing for tenderness, it's really important to hand position. So if you're pressing on your own body and you're using the fingertips, it's really easy to elicit pain with the fingertips because it's a very sharp point. But if you use the pads of your fingers, really I can press as hard as I want to in anywhere on my body, and it really shouldn't cause any pain or tenderness. So if you're using the pads of your fingers and pressing basically as hard as you can, and that's a really good indicator. If you find a tender spot, that's something you can use to test before and after. Don't know if there's any tender spots on you. Some common areas you can search for are in the armpits on both sides, and then along the bicep tendon on both sides too. And then you can also check the valves in the gut here, which are easy to find. You just get the belly button and then that bony prominence on the front of your hip right here, go halfway in between, and that's where those valves are located. It's just a very common area for inflammation to be concentrated in the gut there. So again, just pressing down with the pads of your fingers as far down as you can. If you find some tenderness, that's a pretty good indicator that you can check before and after. So I'm going to do the toe touching first. I can get to just about my toes. You want to do it a couple times, because if you haven't been moving very much, you're probably not going to be very flexible. So do it several times and basically keep going until you make no improvement. So I'm kind of stalling out right here. I can get not quite to the ground. And make sure you're trying hard, because when you test a supplement, oftentimes you really want it to work, so you're going to try really hard and you'll get lower actually. So make sure you're trying really hard when you're doing your ranges of motion. And then, like I said, external rotation, that's kind of where that hurts. I'll show you from the side here, right there. Now I'm going to grab a supplement, put it on my tongue, and see if it changes. All right, so we're just going to open up the capsule here, and we're going to put it on the tongue here. So obviously I couldn't talk with the powder in my mouth, but I could get significantly lower. I could get to where I could palm the floor, but I could get to where I could touch it, but also get even a little bit further than that. Whereas before I couldn't even touch the floor. And then ranges of motion, that range of motion that caused pain before, I got about the same amount of range of motion. However, it wasn't near as painful. So significantly less pain with that range of motion. And then pressing in here, I couldn't hardly find much tenderness at all. Whereas before, it was basically that whole line right there. So then I know, okay, that supplement is really good for me and my body really wants it. And it's going to help out with some of those issues that are causing inflammation in my body or dysfunction in my body. If nothing had changed, or let's say had changed to a very minimal degree, then I might try to keep searching to figure out if there's a supplement that does a lot better for me. But if there's a significant change in one, or especially if it's in most of those things, that's why you want to have several different indicators that you can use. Relying on just one indicator, you might get some positive results and not necessarily get the results you want. But if you can get a group of indicators and test them all and see if they all improve, then you know, okay, for sure, this is something my body needs, my body wants, and I'm gonna respond pretty well to this. So it's worth getting, it's worth buying. What we're using here are the chemoreceptors on the tongue. So essentially we're placing the nutrient and or substance on the tongue, and the brain is recognizing, hey, we finally have what we need to get things going again. And so it's preemptively starting those processes of getting those things moving and going again. So a great example of this is when you smell something really yummy, and your mouth starts salivating, your digestive juices start flowing, you start getting some rumbling. Your brain is getting your body ready for what's coming. Same sort of thing happens when you put a nutrient on the tongue that's going to help out with, let's say, your gut health or your digestion or the inflammation that's going on in the body. If something is going to start helping that, the brain's like, hey, we finally have what we need, and let's start getting stuff going again, so we're ready for that nutrient once we absorb it. Now, if you're testing a lot of supplements at once, then you want to make sure you are rinsing that off of the tongue, so that way the chemoreceptors on the tongue are not still stimulated by that nutrient. And so whether you are drinking lots of water to wash it down or rinsing your mouth out and spitting it out, you need to make sure you're getting that off your tongue. Otherwise, you can get some mixed results. Because let's say in this scenario, I test a supplement that's really helping me out, and then I don't fully wash it off the tongue. Well, now the next ones that I test might give a positive indication when they actually aren't. So you want to make sure you're thoroughly washing that off. You can also make sure you're testing in between each of them. That way you're not just going one after another to indicate, all right, did my range of motion return back to where it was? Did that tenderness return back to it was? You want to make sure you are thoroughly testing to make sure you really get a good idea on what's working and what's not working. If you have any further questions about this process, leave them in the comments below. If you have somebody that you know that has a crazy amount of supplements that they really need to narrow down and hone in on what is actually working for them, send them this video and help them narrow that down so they aren't breaking the bank on supplements.